What is the creepiest or most unexplained thing that's happened to you that you still think about to this day? It was a typical Saturday night in March, probably around 9 p.m., and I was settled in on the couch watching some Netflix series I'd been binge watching all week. My two dogs were with me in the living room. Rex, who's this big German Shepherd mix that thinks he's tougher than he actually is, and Buddy, a golden retriever who's usually the calmer, more sensible one of the two. The house was quiet except for the TV, and I was completely relaxed when I suddenly heard this loud banging sound coming from downstairs in the basement. It wasn't like something had fallen over or shifted. It was rhythmic, deliberate banging, like someone was taking something heavy and repeatedly hitting it against our appliances down there. Now our basement setup is pretty straightforward. There's only one way in or out, which is through the door in the kitchen that leads down to the main basement area. There are no exterior doors, no windows big enough for a person to get through, nothing like that. I'd been in the living room the entire evening, and there was no way anyone could have gotten past me to go downstairs. So while the sound was definitely startling, I wasn't immediately terrified because I knew logically that no intruder could be down there. I was more curious and confused than scared, trying to figure out what could be making that kind of noise. Rex heard it too, and immediately went into what I call his protective mode. Ears up, alert, ready to investigate whatever was causing the disturbance. He took off toward the basement stairs before I could even get up from the couch, which was pretty typical behavior for him. He's always been the type to charge headfirst into any situation. I followed him down to the basement, expecting to find maybe something had fallen off a shelf or the washing machine was acting up. What I found instead was completely bizarre and something I still can't explain. Buddy was down there, standing between our dryer and chest freezer, repeatedly banging his head against both appliances. Not like he was trying to get something that had rolled underneath or playing with a toy. He was just methodically slamming his head into the metal sides of these appliances over and over again. Rex was standing a few feet away just watching this happen, looking as confused as I felt. Buddy was breathing heavily, almost hyperventilating, and seemed completely focused on whatever he was doing. His eyes looked weird too, kind of glazed over, like he wasn't fully aware of what was happening around him. I'd never seen either of my dogs behave like this in the 4 years I'd had them. Buddy especially was always the calm, rational one who would come get me if something was wrong, rather than trying to handle it himself. Seeing him in this frenzied state was genuinely disturbing. I managed to calm Buddy down and get both dogs back upstairs. He seemed to snap out of whatever had been going on, and went back to his normal, relaxed demeanor almost immediately. I checked him over for any injuries from banging his head, but he seemed fine physically. I was still trying to process what had just happened, when, maybe 30 minutes later, the banging started again. This time I immediately looked over at Buddy, who was lying on his dog bed in the living room, clearly not the source of the noise. But he heard it too, and looked just as confused and alert as Rex and I did. We all ran down to the basement again, and this time it was Rex doing exactly what Buddy had been doing earlier. He was standing in the same spot between the dryer and freezer, banging his head against the appliances with that same frenzied, hyperventilating behavior. Buddy was standing nearby watching, just like Rex had done during the first incident. I calmed Rex down the same way I had with Buddy, and again he seemed to immediately return to normal once I intervened. We all went back upstairs, and that was the end of it. No more banging, no more weird behavior, nothing. The whole thing lasted maybe an hour total, but it was one of the strangest things I've ever experienced. I spent the next few days researching online, thinking maybe there was some medical explanation. Head banging in dogs can sometimes indicate brain tumors or other neurological issues, but it seemed incredibly unlikely that both of my dogs would suddenly develop the same serious medical condition on the same night, especially since neither of them ever exhibited that behavior before or since. It's been 3 years now, and nothing even remotely similar has happened again. Both dogs are healthy, happy, and acting completely normal. Rex still charges down to investigate any unusual sounds, and Buddy is still his calm, sensible self. It's like that one night just existed in some weird alternate reality that we all experienced together and then never spoke of again. I still have no idea what caused either of them to behave that way, and honestly, I'm not sure I want to know.